Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. In this video, we will continue Epistle on Sufism, al-Qushayriyyah. Before that, if you still not subscribed, please subscribe and press bell icon. Let's start. Concealment, satar, and self-manifestation, tajalli. The ordinary folk are covered by concealment, whereas the elect are witnessing the permanent self-manifestation of God. A report from the Prophet says, when God manifests himself to something, it submits to him. If someone experiences concealment, his self-perception is determined by it, while a person in the state of manifestation is always characterized by submission. Concealment is a punishment for the ordinary folk and a blessing for the elect. If he did not protect from them what he unveils to them, they would have been completely annihilated by the power of the true reality. However, he manifests himself to them while at the same time concealing himself from them. I heard that Al-Mansur al-Maghribi said, a poor man came to the camp of the Bedouin tribe. A youth of the tribe invited him to his tent. As the youth was serving him some food, he suddenly fainted. The poor man asked about that. The Bedouin told him he has a female cousin whom he loves. As she was entering her tent, the youth saw the dust stirred by the hem of her robe and fell unconscious. The poor man came to the door of the cousin's tent and said, I know that a stranger among you is under your protection. Thus, as a stranger, I have come to speak to you on behalf of this youth, because I feel pity for him being in such a state on account of you. She answered, Good Lord, what a naive man you are. He cannot endure the sight of the dust raised by my clothes. How can he endure my company? The ordinary Sufis experience happiness at divine self-manifestation and suffer when they experience divine self-concealment. As for the elect ones, they vacillate between recklessness and happiness, because when God appears to them, they become reckless. However, when he conceals himself from them, they come to and feel happy. They say that God Most High told Moses, peace be upon him. What is that, Moses? That thou hast in thy right hand, thereby distracting him with something that pleased him in order to lessen the impact of divine unveiling. When God speak to him, the prophet, may God bless and greet him, said, my heart remains covered by a veil as long as I have asked God's pardon 70 times a day. Asking for God's pardon, istighfar, means asking God to veil himself, because the word ghafar also means veil. This is similar to such expressions as to cover oneself with clothing, Ghafar al-Thawb, and protective covering, Mighfar. It seems that the Prophet was saying that he sought to cover his heart against the onslaught of the true reality, because creatures cannot survive in the presence of the real. According to the prophetic report, should God unveil his face, the splendor of his countenance would burn everything within the range of his sight. Presence, hadra, unveiling, mukashfa, and witnessing, mushahida. Presence comes first, then unveiling, then witnessing. Presence is the presence of the heart with God. It can be achieved through a continuous manifestation of the divine proof, during which a person finds himself in God's presence through the power of recollection of God. This state is followed by unveiling, which is presence through clear evidence. In this state, one need not see the divine proof or seek the path. One is neither subject to the promptings of doubt nor wheeled from the realm of the unseen. This state is followed by witnessing. This means to be in the presence of the absolute truth, where there is no room for doubt. When the sky of the innermost heart is free from the clouds of wailing, the sun of witnessing begins to shine from the zodiacal sign of nobility. The true reality of witnessing was captured by Al-Junayd, may God have mercy on him, when he said, God's existence appears when you lose yours. The person in the state of presence is bound by its signs. The person in the state of unveiling rejoices in its attributes. As for the person in the state of witnessing, his self is erased by his knowledge of God. No one has expressed the essence of witnessing better than Amr bin Usman al-Makki, may God have mercy on him, when he said that the lights of God's self-manifestation appear to the heart clearly and without interruption. It is like an uninterrupted sequence of lightning in the middle of the dark night. When it occurs, the lightning turns the night into day. The same happens to the heart when divine self-manifestation descends upon it continuously. It lives in the light of day with no night. Sufis recite the following poetry. My night is lit by your face, whereas its darkness encompasses other people. Therefore, the people wander in the darkness, whereas we bask in the light of the day. Al-Nuri said, one cannot attain true witnessing as long as a single living vein remains in one's body. He also said, when dawn breaks, one no longer needs a lamp. Some Sufis argue that witnessing implies some sort of separation, because the form of the verbal noun upon which it is patterned, that is, mufala, implies an action that involves two subjects. These people are in error because when the creator appears, his creatures cease to exist. Besides, not every verbal noun patterned on mufala necessarily implies the presence of two subjects. For instance, he travelled, suffer, or he sewed another soul upon the soul, taraka al-nal, and so on. Sufis recite the following poetry. When the dawn breaks, the light of its glow eliminates the light of the stars above. It forces them to swill yet another cup of wine, the strength of which is such that were it to be swallowed by a raging flame, it would disappear momentarily. What a marvelous cup this is! It removes them from their own selves, it annihilates them, it steals them from themselves and makes them disappear without any trace. What a cup! It spares not, neither leaves alone. It obliterated them completely, leaving in them not a silver of human nature, as in a poem. They departed, leaving behind neither a sign nor trace. Glimmers, lavai, dawnings, tawali, and flashes, lavami. The Master, may God be pleased with him, said that these words have a similar meaning. They differ very little from one another. They are characteristic of beginners who strive to ascend by their hearts. For them, these rays of the sun of divine knowledge do not last long. God provides nourishment for their hearts at very moment, according to his words. They shall have their provision at dawn and evening. Each time the firmament of their hearts is obscured by the clouds of selfishness, the glimmers of unwilling and the flashes of closeness to God begin to shine in them, and amidst willing they suddenly began to see the glimmers of divine grace, a poet said. O blazing lightning, what quarter of the sky will you shine from? At first there are glimmers, then dawnings, then flashes. The glimmers are like lightning in that they disappear as soon as they appear. A poet said, we have not seen each other for a long time, but when we finally met, his greeting was like saying farewell. Sufis also recite the following verse. O you who have come to visit and yet have not visited, like a man seeking to take some fire, who passed by the door of the house in a hurry, what it was that prevented him from coming in. Flashes are brighter than glimmers and they last longer. Flashes can persist for more than one moment. However, as they say, the eye is weeping because seeing cannot satisfy it. They also say, the eye is hardly able to reach the water of his face without first choking on its guardian before its thirst is quenched. When it appears to you in a flash, it severs you from yourself and unites you with him. However, no sooner than the light of its day has shone, it is attacked by the warriors of night. The people in this state are oscillating between joy and sorrow because they find themselves between willing and unwilling. They say about this state, the night has enveloped us with its noblest cloak, while the morning clad us with its golden gown. Dawnings are longer in duration, are stronger in their effect, and last longer. They are better in lifting darkness and banishing doubts. Yet they are also susceptible to the danger of setting lower in approach and of shorter duration. They are quick to depart and take longer to reappear after they have set. The characteristics of all these experiences, that is, glimmers, dawnings, and flashes, vary. Some of them leave no trace after their disappearance, like some bright stars which eclipse while the night stays on. Others, on the contrary, leave traces behind them. While their signs may disappear, their pain persists. Their light may be gone while their traces remain. A person who has experienced their onslaught continues to live in the shade of their blessings. He is living in anticipation of their return, making do with what he has. Unexpected raids, Pawadi, and attacks, Hujam. Raids are things that descend instantaneously upon your heart from the realm of the unknown. They may cause either joy or sadness. As for attacks, they are things that enter your heart due to the power of the moment, without any effort on your part. They vary in their nature according to the strength or weakness of the experience that participates it. There are those who are changed by their raids and act according to the dictates of their attacks, and there are those whose spiritual state and power put them above anything that may befall to them. Such people are the masters of the moment. Of them it is said, the vicissitudes of time cannot find their way to them, for they are the ones who hold the reins of every great affair. Inconstancy, talween, and stability, tamkeen. Inconstancy is an attribute of those who have spiritual states, whereas stability is a characteristic of those who have attained true realities. As long as a man travels along the mystical path, he experiences inconstancy because he continues to rise from one state to another and move from one attribute to another. He leaves one place for another, but once he has arrived, he becomes stable. They say, I have settled down in my love for you at a station which bewilders the hearts of those who have not yet attained it. The person in the state of inconstancy is continually on the increase, while the one in the state of stability has arrived at his goal and become united with it. The sign of his becoming united is that his entire self no longer takes account of itself. One of the Sufi masters said, the journey of those who have sought to conquer their egos has ended. When they have conquered their egos, they have arrived at their goal. The master, may God have mercy on him, said, he meant that they leave behind their human characteristics and enter the realm of the true reality. If this state persists in someone, he has achieved stability. The master Abu Ali al-Daqqaq, may God have mercy on him, used to say Moses, may God bless him, was characterized by inconstancy. When he returned after hearing the words of God, he had to cover his face because he was so strongly affected by his spiritual state. As for our Prophet, may God bless and greet him, he was characterized by stability. When he returned from his journey, he was the same as when he had left because he was not affected by anything he had seen during that night. Other evidence of this is the story of Joseph, peace be upon him. The woman who saw Joseph or Yusuf, peace be upon him, cut their hands when he came out to them because his appearance was so sudden. As for the wife of Al-Aziz, she turned out to be more perfect than them when tested by Yusuf. On that day, not a single hair of hers was unsettled by his presence because she had attained stability through her earlier encounter with Yusuf, peace be upon him. The master al-Qushayri said, "Know that a person undergoes change as a result of an experience that visits him for two different reasons, namely the strength of the experience or the weakness of the person. Likewise, a person's stability is due to two reasons, namely the person's strength or the weakness of the experience that visits him." I heard that the Master Abu Ali al-Dakak, may God have mercy on him, said, Sufis take two principal approaches to the possibility of the persistence of stability in a person. First, it is absolutely unattainable because the Prophet, may God bless and greet him, said, "Had you always remained in the same condition in which you were when I was with you, the angels would surely greet you." He, may God greet and bless him, said to the same effect, "I have a moment in which only God finds any room in me." He thus mentioned only a specific point, not a constant condition. According to the second view, in people of true realities, states can persist for a long while because they have advanced beyond the condition in which they are affected by unexpected experiences. The Prophet said in his report, "The angels would surely greet you." He thereby did not predicate his statement on an impossible condition, for the greeting of angels is inferior to that which he, peace be upon him, ascribed to beginners in the following report. "Verily, the angels lower their wings for every seeker of knowledge out of contentment with what he is doing." As for his saying, "I have a moment," its meaning differs according to the understanding of each listener, for the Prophet maintained the truth in all his states. It is more appropriate to say that a man is subject to inconstancy as long as he progresses toward his goal. His states may increase or decrease, and when he has finally arrived at the true reality by leaving behind the properties of humanity, God, may he be exalted, makes him stable and prevents him from retreating to the weakness of his self. He thus becomes stable in his state in accordance with his position and with that which he has deserved. Then God, may he be exalted, begins to bestow upon him gifts incessantly, for his possibilities are unlimited. Thus, a mystic whose states are on the increase is inconstant, or rather, he is rendered inconstant by God, while at his core, his spiritual state remains stable. He is continually becoming stable in a state that is higher than the one he has occupied before. He then rises above it to a new state, for God's possibilities have no limit in all respects. Finally, there are those who have lost awareness of themselves and whose senses have been taken from them in their entirety, for human nature of necessity has a limit. If such a person has abandoned his body, soul, and self perception, as well as his perception of the created world around him, and if his self oblivion becomes permanent, he becomes erased. That is, for him, there exists neither stability nor inconstancy, neither a mystical stage nor a mystical state. And as long as he remains in his condition, he is exempt from worship and religious obligations. O Lord, may he be ascribed the things that seem to be done by him, without him actually doing them. In people's minds, such a person is acting on his own, while in fact he is acted upon by God. God, may he be exalted, said, "Thou wouldst have thought them awake as they lay sleeping, while we turned them now to the right, now to the left. May God grant success." For this video, we will finish here. We will continue inshallah in next video. We will meet in the next video again. Till then, don't forget to subscribe, please. Till then, Allah Hafiz. Goodbye. Fi aman Allah.